Welcome to Spreadsheet Magic with me, Shelley Fishel. Why should you hang out with me for the next half an hour? Well, I've been training in Microsoft Office for over 20 years. I'm a qualified IT trainer and I'm a fellow of the LPI. And I know exactly the kind of challenges that you face on a regular basis across all of Office, but in Excel specifically. Today we are going to have a look at these topics. We're going to look at autofill, creating a quick sum, making sure that you know how to use absolute cell referencing, looking at conditional formatting and pivot tables. We'll have a look at what happens when you want your data to look superb, formatting it as a table. Flash fill will allow you to tidy up those lists in a flash. Quick introduction to charts, and we're going to finish up with a people graph, which is a lot of fun. So I think it's time for us to jump right in there to Excel. Let's talk about autofill. Autofill allows you to create a list automatically filling a sequence, and you may have seen it or used it at some point or other. So here I have some things on the screen and I'm just going to show you what each kind of autofill does. So I'll start off with Monday. Now you might be creating a work rota of some sort or things that happen every day of the week. Maybe it's a calendar and you want to have Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday. Well, go to the little black plus sign in the bottom right hand corner known as the autofill handle and drag your cursor down and you'll see that Excel automatically fills that list. So it's going Monday right through to Sunday and then it starts at Monday again. But what if you want just Monday to Friday because you don't work weekends? So you can click the little smart tag here and choose fill weekdays. And then it goes Monday through Friday and starts at Monday again. Pretty cool. One of my all-time favorites. Same thing I can do with months. I can fill all the months and it will work with shortened months. So if you had Jan, Feb, Mar, it would do the same thing. Really quite straightforward. Next up, dates. Now for this to work, you must type your date in a date format. My preferred date format is forward slashes, but you could use hyphens in between or dashes in between the month, day, year, but never ever use dots because Excel doesn't really recognize that as a date and then can't use it. So here I've got the 27th of February. I am going to use autofill and you'll see that each of those cells is incremented by just one, 27, 28, and then it goes to the 1st of March. Pretty clever. If I click the drop down arrow, again I have a range of options, one of which is fill weekdays. So it goes 27, 28, 1 and then 4. So the first was clearly a Friday and the 4th a Monday and so on. I could choose to fill months, which will give me the 27th of each month, and I can choose to fill years, which gives me the 27th of February on each year going forward. I quite like that. Then if I want to have a series of dates which are a week apart, so here I've got the 27th of February and the 6th of March. They are exactly 1 week apart, 7 days. I can highlight them both, get the little black plus sign, and hey presto, there we go. Each of one of those will be exactly 7 days from the previous one. Really useful. Now here's a good one if you're managing an event. Maybe you're creating a timetable of appointments, maybe it's speakers at an event, maybe it's interviews, and you want the interviews to be on the hour. So if I pop in the hour, I want the first one at 10 o'clock and the next one at 11 o'clock, highlight them both, copy it down, and I get every hour on the hour. Or what about if I want the second interview to start at 11:15 because the interview is an hour and then I have a 15-minute break. So again, I'll highlight the two and copy that down and each one will be an hour and 15 minutes from the previous one. And lastly, formatting. You can copy formatting using autofill, and here I've got two cells, yellow and a kind of green, and if I copy those, you'll see it shades them in. If I add some shading to the cell here, when I, let's do the same to that one, get them both. When I copy down, one of the options I am offered are to fill formatting only or fill it without formatting. So you'll see that it automatically filled the formatting. If I only want the days, just the first two formatted, I can choose to fill it without the formatting. So I hope you've found something new in that little bit about autofill, and I'll see you in the next little lesson. A very quick lesson on sums. How do you build a formula from scratch and how do you use AutoSum? Well, you'll see I've got three boxes on the screen. They're the rules. Always start from the cell where you want the result. Our formulas always start with an equal sign, and we always use cell references because whatever is in the cell may change at a later date. And the whole thing is we want it to automatically update. So let's start with AutoSum in the first column. So here I've got a list of numbers that I'd like to add up the whole column. I can come up to the AutoSum icon over here on the ribbon and just click on it, and you'll see that it adds the sum into the cell where I placed the cursor, and it says equals sum. Inside brackets it's saying A3 colon A6. This means from cell A3 to cell A6 inclusive, and there's a blank row in there. I leave a blank row on purpose so that if I add more rows later on, that formula will update. Now I can just press the enter key and it adds it up. The other way I can do that is type an equal sign, click on the 10, click on the plus, click on the 20 and then on the plus, and then on the 30 and add it up that way. Either way will do the same. You'll notice that both of them, if you look up here in the formula bar, start with an equal sign, and the sum is just a bit of a shortcut. When you have more than two numbers, I'd always use an auto sum. So I want to subtract. I'm going to follow the same process. Start with an equals, click on the first cell, type in my minus, click on the second cell, and Bob's your uncle. Multiplication is done with an asterisk, which is Shift 8, or you'll find it on the numeric keyboard. So once again, equals, first cell, symbol, second cell, and hey presto. And again, 40 divided by 4 is equals, the first cell, / for divide, the second cell. And then over here, just to demonstrate that, building a sum, 12 plus whatever is in this cell, and Bob's your uncle. That's how you build a formula from scratch, and that forms the basis of any other kind of calculations that you do in Excel. Always start from the result cell, always start with an equals, and always use absolute cell references. Now that we've seen how to use autofill and how to create a sum and use AutoSum, we're going to see how to fix part of a formula and why you might want to do that. So here I've got a shopping list. I'm going shopping for shoes, a hat, coat, handbag, lipstick, you know, girly stuff. And I want to work out what the VAT is on each item and then total the VAT I'm going to be spending. And I then want to get the total cost of each item, so the cost plus the VAT. I've got the VAT sitting up here in this cell, 0.2, which is 20%, and now I'm going to work it out. So like we saw earlier, I'll start with an equal sign, I'll click on the first cell, add my multiplication symbol, and click on the cell I want to multiply by. Press enter. Perfect, it works. But I don't really want to do that in every row, so I'll use autofill to copy that down. And of course, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, if I click on this cell here, the second one, I can see in the formula bar that it's looking for this whatever is in B6, which is correct. So if I double click, you'll see that it's looking at B6 and J2. Well, J2's got nothing in it. If I go to this one and double click, it's going to be 7 correct and J3 incorrect. So how do I fix it? Fix being the operative word. Well, I'm going to do this one all over again. And this time, instead of just pressing enter, I'm going to use the F4 key on my keyboard. Not the F5 key, but the F4 key. You'll see it places dollar signs around J and 1. And $J, $1 means fix column J and fix row 1. I'll press the enter key and then perform that autofill again. And you'll see that this time it works them out. So if I double click on this one, you can see that it's referring to J1. Each of them are referring to J1, which is exactly what I want it to do. I can now total the VAT like so, and it will add them all up. I can use AutoSum to total these two. I can use Autofill to copy that down because I'm not going outside of the rows. And then I can use AutoSum to add up that column too. So all in all, it makes filling that spreadsheet in much, much faster. That's absolute cell referencing, and it's one of the cornerstones of Excel. Format your data as a table has several benefits. 1, it makes it look nice. 2, it adds formatting function, it adds analysis functionality. And 3, it allows you to automatically add things to it. It's very cool. We're not going to see all of its functionality. You'll be able to play with that later on. So here I have my worksheet. This is the sales of coffee at my coffee shop called Coffee Island, and it's got various columns and entries of how many coffees were sold, where, for how much, and what my total sales were for each day. You'll note that the top row is formatted different to the rest of the worksheet, and that's so that Excel will know that it's a header row. To turn it into a table, I'll click on Format as Table, choose a style, so I'll choose this orange style. It then checks in with me where the data is. Also, my table has headers. I need to make sure that's ticked so the table doesn't get sorted or ended up not as part of the table. And now it's done the job, and you'll see it looks much better, easier to read, etc. It's also added the auto filter, and when I scroll, the top row stays fixed on the screen. With the auto filter, I can pull out and look at just one group of items. So I could just look at the sales of cappuccino. But before I do that, I'm going to add a total row. So I'm going to click total. It jumps to the bottom and it adds in this lovely total row, and it adds up the only column it can find that it thinks I might want to add up. And I have a choice of different functionality, but I'm going to leave it with a sum. If I want to know how many drinks I sold, I can add that in. So I sold 25,077 drinks for a total sales value of £45,690.39. Brilliant stuff. Now what happens when I filter? So if I now go into the item column and say that, well, I'd like to see just the sales of cappuccino, then hey presto, it brings me just the rows that have cappuccino in, and it automatically changes the totals. So this time I've sold 6,426 drinks for a total value of £12,209.40. Really cool. I'm sure you'll agree. And it's really very handy. So I can clear the filters from cappuccino and get all my numbers back. And there we go. There it is. Now I mentioned that if I add extra rows to it, it continues. So if I just add in some rows here, because I've already got a total row there, I'm going to insert them in there. You'll see that it keeps the formatting. I can add these in, and I can say cappuccino 450 for £1.90, I think they are, and it automatically populates. So it carries on working. Really, really neat. So that's Formatter's table. There are other things that it can do, but I'll leave that for another time. Conditional formatting can help you use formatting to show you trends in your data. Let's see what I mean. So here is my list of sales of coffee at Coffee Island again, and perhaps I want Excel to highlight for me all the rows that have values of sales higher than a certain number. Really easy to do. I'm going to click on these cells here. I'm not going to do the whole lot, just this 28 rows here. I'm going to come to conditional formatting, and I'm going to go through and show you what each of these does. So the first one is highlighting cells, and when I choose that, I can say cells with a value greater than. If I choose greater than, it's picked up 1,226, but perhaps I want to find anything that was sold more than 750. I've got a few options for formatting. I'm going to leave it as it is for now. So now it's highlighting only the rows with sales greater than £750. Again, if I come into conditional formatting, greater than, I can change that, and this is going to apply a second rule on top of the first one. So if I don't want that rule anymore, I'll need to clear the rules from the selected cells. Other options, well, you can see we've got less than, between, equal to. If it's a field with text in it, we can look for it, ask it to highlight all instances of cappuccino, for example. Top and bottom rules will pick out the top 10 or the top 10% or the bottom 10 or the bottom 10%, and it'll even work out above or below average. Data bars fill in the cells according to 100%. So anything which is a lower value will be less filled in, and the higher values will be more filled in. And you can choose from a range of colours. You can have gradients or solids. The colour scales works in a similar way. It uses kind of traffic lights or different colours. Personally, for me, they don't work as well as the data bars. And my favourite are the icon sets. These are little pictures that show you what your data's doing. So we can say what's going up, what's going down, what's average. We could use circles. We could use star ratings. We could use icons like wireless icons, filling in the boxes, all sorts of different options here for giving a graphical explanation of the data, and it just allows you to pull that out quite quickly. It would also allow you to sort or filter on those shapes as well. And we can create lots of other rules and make it do lots of things that we want. But the first step is to apply a rule, see how that works for you, and get familiar with conditional formatting. Flash fill is relatively new, not brand new, but relatively new, and it's quite super duper. Where autofill fills things that are already in a column or in a row, flash fill can combine things and fill them at the same time. So let's see what I mean. Here I've got a list of people in a database, say contacts or whatever, and I actually would like a field called full name, which had their first name and their surname in it. And their first name and their surname at the moment is split out. So in the first one, I've got Ella Hilton. So I'm going to type Ella and then Hilton. In the second row, I'm going to type Michael. And as I start to type very faintly, you can see that Excel has sensed a pattern and it's saying, is this what you want to do? Well, I do. So I'm going to press enter and automatically I've got the whole list. If I want to get the city and the postcode, so here I'm going to do the same thing, CMIL and then KA23OPW. And the second one is Ashton, and as soon as I start to type, Excel senses what I want to do. Isn't that cool? I can also extract So if I want to extract the first name from here, I can type Ella. No, I need to type it correctly. And then Michael. And again, it's going to pull it all out. Have a play with it. It does all sorts of things, combinations, extractions, and it fills the columns beautifully. Rock, pivot and roll, or rather pivot tables. Many people are really frightened of pivot tables and they say, I've got no idea how it works. Well, let's jump in and see. You'll notice I've got my list of drinks from Coffee Island, all of the sales, and this is what I want to summarize. And I want to summarize it in ways that are easier for me than just filtering, sorting or subtotaling. Formatting the list as a table and then basing the pivot table on the table enables me to save time further down the line when I add more data to my underlying list, so that when I come to refresh, if I add more rows here, I just have to refresh the pivot table. If it wasn't based on a table and I add more rows, I'd have to change the data range in the pivot table and then refresh. This is more accurate. So your first task is to format your list as a table, which I've already done here. Now I can go into the table design ribbon because I'm clicked in the table and choose summarize with pivot table. Equally, I can go to the insert ribbon and choose pivot table there. As they both do exactly the same thing, I'm going to save time. I've just formatted it as a table and click summarize with pivot table. It's picking up what is known as table 3. I can actually name the table, so I could call it sales table or something else. And I'm going to pop the pivot table on a new worksheet because it's easier for us to see what's going on. Over here on the left is where we're going to build the pivot table. And on the right hand side, we have the different elements that we're going to build it from. Here are the fields, which are the column headings in my list. So if I choose the item field, you'll see it pops in each of the items in my list. And if I choose sales, I've now got a summary of the total sales for each item without having to sort, filter or subtotal, which I think is pretty cool. I'm going to choose center and you'll see that now it's taken the items and underneath it added the centers. If I tick sales, I've got the subtotals. If I switch them around and put the center first, then here I've got the total sales for Bath and how each of the different drinks has performed. Really yummy. I really like this. I can drag the items across to the columns because that might be an easier way for me to read it. And I can see that in Bath, I sold £1,084.9 worth of Americano, that one, and quite a lot more cappuccino. You can see there is a whole lot of things that I can do with my pivot table. Now, if I want my numbers to show up as currency, I can come into the value field settings, where I could choose a different kind of calculation too, come to number format, choose currency, and then OK out. And now my pivot table is formatted with currency. So let's say I want to take out the items and just see the totals for the centers. And if I add in the items and remove the centers, I can now see the subtotals for the items, beautifully formatted with currency. So I hope that's taken the fear out of pivot tables. They are hugely powerful and do a lot of things. That's all we've got time for in this segment. See you in the next one. In this short lesson, we're going to see how to create a simple chart in Excel. We're going to do two charts, one a pie and the other a column. Let's see how we do this. First of all, we have to have some data. So I have my sales of cappuccino here. I've got the items, the numbers sold, and this is going to give me a pie chart. So I'm going to come to the insert ribbon. And I have got the option of going for recommended charts, which will give me some suggestions of what Excel thinks is the best chart for me. But I'm going for a pie because that's what I want. You'll see that it divides it up. I'll click OK and it pops it there right in my spreadsheet where I want it. I've got a plus sign which allows me to add other elements to it. I can have the legend, I can not have the legend, I can have data labels or not have data labels. I can choose where I want those data labels if I want to have them. So that's that. I can then change the formatting if I want to make it stand out a little bit, and I can even filter and decide which elements I want to show and which I don't want to show. So let's look at the other option. Here I've got sales by month. I'm going to go to insert, I'm going to choose recommended charts, and it gives me a clustered column chart, which is actually what I want. So I'll click OK, and boom, there it is, and I managed to move the title rather than the chart itself. So let's pop that there. Same options. I can add different elements. Because it's a different kind of chart, I've got more choices. I can also change the formatting, so that might look good on a presentation. I think that's probably a bit nicer. Not keen on that one. Oh, there we go. Let's match. And again, I can filter and say just show me certain months or just show me certain items. So there we have a very whistle-stop quick tour of how to bang out a very quick chart in Excel. We're almost done today. I just want to show you one last very cool feature of Excel. It's called People Graph and it's an add-in. So if you don't see the icon, you may need to go and click Get Add-ins and then type in there People Graph. I've already got add-ins here, so I'm going to click my People Graph icon. And it pops up this picture. Numbers about the app, so it's telling me how many people have downloaded it and so on. And I want to change this to reflect my data. So I'll click in here and click on the spreadsheet icon. So first of all, this is the title. So this is Sales at Coffee Island. That's how I spell Coffee Island. And then it wants me to select the data. So here's the data, it's already here. I'm going to select that data and choose Create. Immediately it changes what was there and pops in there my data. So we can see that 500 people had cappuccino, tea, 250 had latte, etc. If I click the settings icon, I can change what it looks like. I could change the type, I can change the theme, and if I go back to type, I can change this one, change to this one, and then go to the theme, and now I've got other themes I can choose from. So you see there's quite a reasonable amount of faffing about. I don't have coffee cups, unfortunately, or even any cups, but let's have people like that. And I can, it says please extend your app to show more. So to extend the app, we'll click and drag from the corners if it would allow us to. But for now, that's my people graph. I can now right click and choose to save it as a picture, and then I can use it in a document, in a report, social media, or whatever else I want to use it for. So that is a people graph, how to get an infographic out of Excel. What next? How can you continue to improve your Excel skills? Well, you could get my book, which is called Business Barista, Essential Excel Skills to Streamline Your Business, and that's on Amazon. It's available either as a print book or as a Kindle. So head over there and look for me, Shelley Fishel. You can also get 10% off any of my courses. Just use adminchat at the checkout. There is a coupon code placed there. If you go to coursedirectory.tomorrowsva.com, you'll find that you can purchase any of my courses and get 10% off. And there's an essential Excel course for both Windows and Mac users there. You can sign up for my newsletter at tomorrowsva.com, where you'll get a newsletter every Thursday, and there's also a blog on a Thursday on tomorrowsva.com. Plus, every Tuesday is my Top Tip Tuesday blog. Lots of how-to tips around Microsoft Office. So, thank you for joining me, Shelley Fishel from Tomorrow's VA, and I'll see you somewhere online soon.